it's like a big problem and you sweep it under the rug and forget about it because that was back then and we're going this way. That's the way people think about it. And it doesn't, life shouldn't have to work that way.
Aloha, and welcome to Healers' Voices, the podcast that brings you the healing heartbeats of Maui and around the world. I'm your host, Jessica Brazil, and together we embark on a journey to explore the inspiring stories of individuals who are making a profound impact on both local and global levels. From the powerful healing of Maui, we are here to amplify the voices of healers, visionaries, and change makers. We believe in the transformative power of dialogue to chart a future where all life thrives, living in harmony with the natural world and embodying the spirit of aloha. Welcome back, Chief Lee Plenty-Wolf. Thank you for joining us today on Healers' Voices. For those who have not met you in the past, I'd love to just share a little bit about your background. Chief Lee Plenty-Wolf is a Lakota medicine man from the Oglala tribe, which is one of the 7 tribes composing the Sioux Nation, and is influential and well established as a leader in the movement of water protection, as well as Indigenous Protection of People, Wild Horse Protection Act, and a number of other organizations leading powwow and prayer singing and other ceremonies, as well as being an author of Plenty Wolf Medicine, 7 Lakota Values, and offering spiritual support in the form of Inipi, Sundance, Chanupa, and other ceremonies, and speaks regularly on these climate change and life principles in a variety of settings. So welcome back, Chief Lee. Really grateful today that we carved out a moment in time to have a conversation about Indigenous healing from your perspective, and specifically looking at issues such as trauma and addiction from an Indigenous perspective. So welcome back, Chief Lee.
Oh. Thank you for having me back.
You're welcome.
Let's hope I drink enough coffee. That's an addiction there too.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Yeah. I cut down now.
Yeah. Well, I know in some of our past time together, we've opened up with prayer. That's been an important part of the journey.
Yes.
Would you like to open up with any prayer or attention to a specific chant that might support the time with us together?
Yes. Yeah. I'll say a short prayer. It's always good to pray because in today's world we need a lot of prayer. We need all sorts of different kinds of prayers the way this world is going. The sicknesses, the illnesses, the things that are happening, natural disasters. We need Creator's help, Tunkashila's help. We call the Creator Tunkashila. So at this time, I will pray for you and pray for me, pray for everybody around us, and get this meeting going. Kaya Tunkashila kaya betukia ke hopila tunka unkini chapina. They betuki that I go on you won't like on that I go on. Ja, in the fact conclusion che ne c'è un casino io non lo capito. Na guarda che tutto che na ja ogna e tako e ai che psache ni shogna tako kaki jap na cheche na ja I mogla capito. Tak to che ne c'è. Toshke che na Kichonya because to ke taku heni wongla kon taku hena ugana taku le waichung hena ugana tuksel hena ye chitu peche wete goicha ke pikta cha homsa cha ya hoyo ya pikta tukashlo ka homsa cha hoyo chiche washula pole apetu ke apetu washtu me ko khapilong ya pi Tukashila Jessica, Tukashita Takuya Kike, Yoashina. Takuya Tokatake, na ya Takuku Samuel, Imoglakovtena, Yatukashon Kitchen washed the picky, why I take I washed the picture, and Takuku. Yatan na humpin na gunata kung wasta ta ichup kita sacha. No such a chicha. Ya hecha to the homitakasi. Thank you.
Mahalo. So, tell us a little bit about the practice of prayer and just a little bit about what that prayer offers when opening up and
Uh,
in time of an Indigenous healing.
prayer is a worldwide way of trying to talk to our Creator, God, Muhammad, Buddha, whatever you want to call him, Great Spirit, and the blessings that we get from them. So when we pray, we automatically think of all the issues and the problems we have in today. The time around the world today, what's happening today, and all the illnesses and the sicknesses, and we just don't think about the two-legged, but also the four-legged and the winged ones, and the ones that live in the waters and the water and the air. Everything that has movement has a nariwa, we call it a spirit. And we pray for them. We pray for the spirits. We pray for the spirit in these trees. The trees grow. They have a nari. They have a spirit. And they can't speak for themselves because only us humans can do things about it. Uh, we shouldn't be cutting down trees because they're alive. They grow together, but yeah, we do because that's the way houses are built, and that's the way people get warm. And so when before you do that, you have to offer tobacco and say, okay, I'm going to use this to warm up. And some trees are have gone and moved on too. So we use them as a we gather that are dead or that have died and went on to the spirit world themselves. So just like anything else, we like animals, before we know they're gonna feed us. We pray for them as we take them, and we only take what is needed because this is why they're there for that. You know and even plants, medicine plants, plants that we eat. We put down a little tobacco. Anything that we gather, we put down a little tobacco and offer it to the Creator to make it good, so we can in turn eat it and use it and to cure our illnesses. We pray because prayer is the only powerful thing that anybody ever has, and a lot of people, if we have a lot of people who pray, this world will be a great place. You prayer. We pray because of things that may bother us in a way where um, things that we can't get off of our minds psychologically or spiritually, mentally. We pray about that, and we pray from our heart. That's the best way, the only way that I think that we could pray is from your heart, and then it goes through your mind, and then out your mouth. Um, Whatever comes to you, they say pray in a natural way because that's the way that it's meant to come out. So in a natural way, we pray for everyone, everything else, and then like with me, I hardly um, pray for myself. I think that if we ask for prayers for everybody else, the goes to the Creator will notice that we um, put ourselves last, or not pray for ourselves, and in that way we all are blessed with the things that we get, like good health and food and whatever we need in today's world to keep going, to keep alive, to keep going forward. So that's what prayer is from the heart, whatever the problems and issues and the illnesses. whatever comes through your mind after it comes from the heart.
Mm. And you mentioned, tobacco is used a lot in with prayer. Can you tell us a little bit about the history and use of tobacco and how that's different from maybe how we see it in modern day life?
Traditional tobacco that we use, we have to harvest that. It's usually grown. It grows alongside rivers. They call them in English terms red willow. They're like red bushes, and when we harvest it, we just take a good shaft or a good one part of it, and then move on to the next one and do the same. We don't we don't do gather all of it in one bunch. In other words, so we gather it in different places, different bushes, and then that red willow, we call it in Lakota, we call it shashasha. And we when we get it, we use a dull, um, some kind of an object with an edge on it, and shave off the top layer, the red part, the red bark. And in between the bark and the shaft, there's another layer. And after you get the bark off, then you um, scrape the next layer, and then you scrape it onto a piece of towel or paper or whatever, and then you let it dry. You let it dry, it automatically curls up. You let it dry, and then you take it and you kind of crumple it up a little bit. So that's what we use in our chanupa, what we call most people know it as pipe. We don't call it a pipe because pipe can describe a metal pipe or a regular pipe, smoking pipe, whatever. So we call it the chanupa because of where the bowl came from and where the stem comes from, and it's a way that Creator showed us, gave us this gift, so we can have a connection with Gashina, Great Spirit.
And is there a connection to like the prayers expanding through the use of this medicine, like into the air element or the spirit realm?
Oh yes, yeah. When you use this the traditional tobacco, nowadays you can also mix it with the regular tobacco that's harvested in the fields, tobacco that's sold. Um, you take it and you can mix it in with it, or you can use that as an offering. You ask Creator, you offer your tobacco for His blessing. You ask for His the cure for whatever illness or the help that is needed for that certain person. It's an offering. That's what the tobacco is. And in turn, we also make those for the spirit, the helpers that come and help us. That this tobacco is, I don't know, I don't think I can compare it to is sort of like a contract, sort of. You offer a tobacco, and in turn, the help is there. In turn, if somebody came to me and offered me tobacco for a certain prayer to help that person, then if I accept it, then I okay the help that I'm going to give that person. In some cases, I don't accept because some in some cases the request isn't what it's supposed to be. You can't request things, negative things, or you can't request bad prayers, or you can't request material things. You can request, like, say, for instance, if you need help with fixing your car, you can ask Creator to find a way to get your car going again. And so that's a request. But those are just another. It's a material thing. So what we try to focus on is health, health for our relatives or for friends, or good life for certain people that may have been struggling, and a good well-being for the future, protection for children, for all humans, or for four-leggeds, or the winged ones. That's just to help with good health and good prayers for everyone.
It's helpful. Thank you. And so today in this world, we don't always see a connection to something like tobacco as a medicine, right? But just like many other things we see out there that can be misused and instead of as a medicine be abused.
Right.
What is the connection with like the heart and perhaps grief and compassion and our relationship to the smoke or the ingestion of tobacco and other plants that have medicinal properties? Can you tell us about a little bit more about that from an Indigenous perspective?
If you use it in the right way to accept the tobacco, to ask Creator to help that person or that group of people, or someone that's having a hard time, or an animal, or whatever, um, in a good way, when you use it and you're going to offer it, part of it, it's just temporary, and the Creator, when you smoke it, what we usually do is you take it into the mouth and then you blow it out, and that smoke that rises, or even from a chanupa, uh, that smoke that rises our prayers going up into the heavens, and that tobacco is what's offering, is asking the prayer to a request, and in some cases they burn that. We have to hold on to it for 4 days, and then we burn the tobacco. So the same thing, when it burns, that smoke goes up into the heavens
Mm-hmm.
as an offering.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find a way to use it in a request, or at certain times, then it's not going to hurt you, because that's exactly what it's for. Now, if you get it, if somebody offers you a whole pack of cigarettes, what I usually do is take one cigarette out, and instead of me smoking it, or if I take the smoke, I blow it 4 times, and then I put the rest on the altar, or in the fire. This is to request that prayer. Now the rest of that pack, if I wanted to, I can smoke one after another, and it's not good for me, because it's not good for your lungs, for one thing. It's too many chemicals in today's cigarettes. So it's just like, you can use that tobacco to request a prayer, but you can't um, abuse it, and
Mm-hmm.
start to smoke, chain smoke it. It's going to hurt your body.
Yeah.
You know.
And yet it seems like there's a craving from many people to have this smoking like experience with many different substances. But I just, sometimes I wonder, like, that can be, when it's done in a ceremonial way with some of the traditional practices, it can be such an intimate experience with the spiritual realm and can be so soothing for the heart, medicine to, grief if there's a loss, or to connecting to a transition that's happening, or pain, or some type of struggle. So sometimes, as you share this, I just think about other people that I see that maybe crave a connection to smoking, and that how that can become like an addiction, but it's so different in its use, how it's applied in its intended form from an Indigenous perspective. And so I just appreciate hearing that as we step into talking about trauma, generational trauma, and grief, and how we see so much pain in our world today when it comes to misuse of substances that maybe in another context might have been medicinal in their original form.
Right. Right.
And we can probably see that with a lot of both plant-based and man-made forms of medicines and chemicals. So I'm just curious from your perspective, what is your observation over the years?
Well, like I say, it goes back to it depends on what it's for, how you use it, and what your intentions are for the good, for requests for blessings. Or if you go further beyond that and start to abuse anything that's, well, there's a lot of plants that are grown here on Ochimaka, grandmother earth, that is for certain, we use it for certain purposes or for certain reasons, but we can also can be uh, used to for other things to get abused,
Mm-hmm.
because there's all sorts of plants and I don't know if mushrooms come considered a plant, but things like that are being used for other things to make people feel mm, someplace else, you know, and like they're feeling good about themselves or going someplace else. And when you get to a certain point, they get addicted to that. They want that feeling, so they keep on doing it. That's abusing. So addictions comes in from different plants, different and man-made. A lot of it's just man-made, and get abused. We can abuse it. I know that I, me myself, I used to be and I still am an alcoholic. So we abuse alcohol because you know you put certain ingredients together, hops and whatever else that goes into alcohol, and then you abuse it, right? Yeah, there's certain people like us natives that cannot. We're not made to mix with alcohol, and so we get addicted. Just like marijuana, or just like cigarettes, or even coffee, because coffee is grown and it's still you use it for the caffeine effect, but yeah, we can abuse that too. And so it depends on how you use it to get addicted to it, and that's where the addiction started. From way back. And they find along the way they find different ways to make put things together to make them a little more powerful, a little more different, a little more different taste, a little more different effects. You know. So yeah, it all depends on what man does, and it's usually man that has gotten us to this point. You know, with addiction and a lot of it's connected to greed because of the money and the things that are attached to it. And the focus from way back is the more you have, the more money you have, the richer you are, the better life is. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like right now, the less you have with me, the less you have is a more simple way of life, a humble way of life. And the humble way of life is you feel good. You feel good that you're not abusing anything, or you feel good that you're especially your own body. You're not abusing your own body, and so you're taking care of the gift that the Creator has given you, which is life. You know, and that's what you're supposed to do: is take care of that gift, you know, and others too, and watch over them. That's why
Mm-hmm.
we pray to watch over our, people, our relatives. We're all related. you know. So we pray for everyone.
I often see addiction, and I think there's research around it now that calls it like the disease of disconnection, right? Where maybe we've just gotten so distracted that we've lost
Yep.
the potency of what a simple, humble life can actually offer.
Right.
But it is very rich in other ways. You know, taking that 4 puff of tobacco for medicinal purposes may be much more powerful than, and maybe more subtle initially, because it's not this heightened rush, you know, like a roller coaster that maybe
Right.
some is seeking that instant gratification because we've lived in a world where whatever we desire, we can find a pretty quick ability to access it.
Right.
And yet there's something to going on that longer journey, the longer path to actually that along that path, it's not just about the destination, but it's about stopping along the way and getting to actually learn about a new flower or plant or person, and that becomes rich in its simplicity. So maybe you can share a little bit about what do you see with that disease of disconnection and how that relates to
Again,
health of our humanity right now and our planet.
well, like everything else, it goes back to greed.
Hmm.
Um, if you really think about it, you just need uh, maybe a small piece of like a small piece of land for that tobacco to grow on, like say um, a quarter of an acre. That's a lot of tobacco, and you use that tobacco to offer to the Creator for His blessing, or ask for prayers. Compared to, say, if you have thousands and thousands of acres of tobacco and you sell it and you get profit from it and you have that money. Uh, well, look at all the lives that you're destroying because of the misuse of tobacco, and
Hmm.
um, also you're focusing on that money, and when your time comes, what are you gonna do? You can't take that money with you. You know, you can have a big bank account, but you can't take it with you. I know people say, "Well, I'm going to leave it to my relatives or my children or whatever." But in turn, that's in a way that's being spoiled, and in turn, they're going to do the same thing that you just did. You know, and so without that tobacco helping heal a sickness, a illness for a person, or asking for a prayer to be granted, you use it for profit, then you're not healing anything. You're more or less destroying, or more or less thinking about greed instead of helping you or helping someone for a cure for disease or illness.
A lot of things lose their medicinal value when the intention is not heart centered
Right, right,
or coming from a compassionate place that has concern for all life, not just individualism
yeah,
or personal gain. And I like to even see individualism as that immediate nuclear family, right? Because
right,
collectivism really stretches out to all of the life forms around us, and that's one of the values that I've seen brought back into our world. It's always been there in indigenous cultures and communities as a strong value, and in some larger communities and countries where that is a stronger value system. And that in and of itself, just that sense of collectivism can be a medicine. So we have this generational trauma that we're working through on a collective level within communities. And trauma, often unprocessed, unhealed trauma, generation after generation, can sometimes make it more challenging for individuals, families, and communities to reconnect and find direction, find meaning, find ways to gain healing in healthy ways. So, what are some other Lakota medicines can be helpful to our communities that are facing challenges with generational trauma and addiction? What do you see as, no, we can't change the world in this conversation, but for those listening, what would be helpful that maybe isn't on mainstream media, but you think is really important for listeners to really understand about connection and Indigenous healing practices?
Prayer goes back to prayer. Prayer is a direct way of requesting help from the Creator about people, people around you that are addicted or can be addicted to certain things, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, drugs. Um, and nowadays it's dangerous because there's all sorts of drugs, that are being processed or manufactured. Different things that are different chemicals that are put together to kill people, really. Um, Generational trauma is something that comes generation after generation without really having a discussion or a program to help the families, and so it continues. Um, if you're constantly if you're constantly reminded that you're in, and it happens with just not just natives, but with other races too. That they always say that the superior race always wins or has the upper hand. So if that happens, because a long time ago, what the English would try to eliminate the Irish, isn't that the way it went? And so the generational trauma affects the Irish too, and whoever else, indigenous people around this world. And when you're reminded, or when nothing is done about it, then that stays with you because of who you are and who you are reminded of each day, or well, exactly who you are, really. And so that stays with you whether you know it or not. It's within your DNA, and it holds on, and then you pass it on. You pass it on to your children, their children, their children. Generational trauma without any discussions about, okay, it's like a big problem and you sweep it under the rug and forget about it because that was back then and we're going this way. That's the way people think about it. And it doesn't, life shouldn't have to work that way. There has to be programs or discussions about what are we going to talk about so we can get along as humans, not just races or genders, or, you know, how are we gonna get along for the future? How are we gonna help our children for the better, instead of teaching them, oh, don't hang out with them because they're no good, or don't hang out with those kind of people because they're not good for your life or whatever. You can't teach your kids racism, or to hate people, or to not get along with certain countries or tribes, or different races, because that's not going to help any. Yeah, it's just like putting a hold on all life, sort of. And so you have to have a way to come to an understanding, to help one another, so we can all live as what we should be, as one. as humans. You know,
As you share that, I hear that this separateness breeds more disconnection instead of connection.
right? Because right now, look at the world. I mean, somebody's trying to become the top of the heap, so to speak. Somebody is trying to be more superior than others, instead of just letting everything go and saying, okay, let's just get along and let's help one another. Instead of looking like what's happening in the Holy Land right now. You know, uh, those children didn't have nothing to do with nothing. I mean, they didn't expect to be killed, and it goes back to the gift of life that Creator gave us, and then those innocent people, they didn't have nothing to do with it. They're caught in the middle, and instead of talking about it and getting along and say, okay, now I'll just stay over here and you stay over there and let's all get along. You know, there's always somebody that's trying to start something, start problems, issues, because they think they're, in history they're fighting a war from way back. Why not try to make something better instead of living back there? You
Hmm.
but the world for some reason is not working out that way. You
We have a lot of systems in place that are built in pyramids and squares, right?
Right,
And the medicine wheel is a circle.
right,
So, and that circle, nobody's left out because everybody's connected in that circle,
right.
or the web, and the interconnectionness of the web. And I'm just curious from a systemic perspective. You've shared a little bit about leadership from an Indigenous perspective. Always is putting themselves first. I mean, not themselves; they're putting the people first.
Right.
That could even include the giving of their own life, and we don't see that as much in leadership. It's putting all these other people in front of you before getting to the leader who um, is protecting themselves and whatever their vision or mission is. So if we were to embrace a more healing approach systemically, what's an example of a healthy program or system that might address intergenerational trauma or disconnection from a more medicine wheel or circular perspective?
It's putting putting like you said, it putting everybody in all situations before you that bother people, and trying to work out the problem for the people, instead of for the leaders. In today's world, if you become a leader, they say you're the most powerful, and you put yourself first, and you give yourself the best wage possible, and so you're rich and famous, so to speak. Whereas a good leader should be at last. And if you put yourself last, like put prayers first, put people first, put everything else in this world first, and then you become a great leader that way. And you're humble at the same time, and your blessings will happen instead of it working the other way around. Um, they have to work on all the issues, and not just just limited amount of leaders. I mean, it takes a lot of people, a lot of leaders to come together to work on different issues. And where it may be up to the final decision of a leader, but what I'm trying to say is it takes all the people to decide on what's more important for the people or the tribe or that certain area or the world. it takes a lot of people to decide together and what's best for that group, or whether it's a small or whether it's a large country.
Mhm.
That's the way it should be. But now it funnels down to a certain few that make a decision of, okay, well, um, let's go have these kids over here, try to kill these kids over here, even though they don't have no problems with each other. Let's decide that, and let's say they do that right now, and open it up. So they do that. The kids are killing kids over here and there, just because a certain few decide, okay, no, this is what's the best thing for this our country or our group of people, which shouldn't have to be that way. We all have to come together in order to talk about everything, and there wouldn't be no killings, you know. But I kind of I always think about these things, and it makes me feel like this world is kind of backwards, you know.
Mhm.
It's backwards.
Mhm. Well, we see in systems today, we see certain roles in different industries. Like our teachers and our healthcare workers or our healers. Maybe would be nurturing communities, right? Or maybe there'd be a lot of elders or healers that are maybe not putting themselves first, but the community would make sure that those people are taken care of because they're taking care of so many other people. But we see many groups, even our elders, who are not well taken care of in many modern day societies. They're in a way left behind as the youthful generation forges ahead, and yet many communities thrived when the elders and the children were well taken care of, and those able bodied or strong, fit warriors would really make sure that the more vulnerable people were well taken care of. That was a warrior, right? That was the strength of the people was in that shared responsibility for one another. So sometimes I kind of wonder like, do we have like a displaced warrior generation that just has lost touch with some of these other systems? And this is such a big, complicated issue, but from an Indigenous perspective, when you're speaking to healing, I always want to kind of pull from wisdom like you that might be helpful for our listeners. What's something that we could take away and digest and implement into the different communities that we have a connection to that might bring more harmony?
I think it's to understand to understand and recognize um, the people that also need the help, and then because of the people who do help, who help in certain places or certain jobs or certain positions, like you, for instance, and know that you're trying to do something good for the people should recognize it and say, okay, well, she needs help, he needs help. It should automatically happen. It should automatically people should automatically think about it, and that should be part of the need to recognize that person, and not just saying, oh, we're going to put this person in front and give them a medal because they're doing this and this and this. No, we have to think beyond that and say, well, this person needs some food and maybe some gas for the vehicle, or nowadays, a long time ago was this person would need, like for instance, a long time ago, if a person really, offered help in our tribe, the person that requested the help would offer that person the best of the things that he had for the cure for a relative or the health. I could take back then the value of a lot of things was when somebody owned horses, and so they offer him so many head of horses, and as a say here, this is your gift for you helping my family out. And nowadays, it's very it depends on nowadays society has made it where the whole world is dependent on this thing called money, and you can't do nothing without it. Society has made it that way. You can't go get food at the grocery store on your looks, you know. Well, maybe you can, but but you know,
Hasn't worked so far.
uh, the gas. You have to put in fuel to get from point A to point B. You have to take care. First of all, you have to have a vehicle, and the basics, the basic necessities of how can I get from here to there a little bit quicker. Um, how can I afford to get there from there a little bit quicker? How can I eat? Not only, I mean, now we nowadays I just eat whatever I can get a hold of. We're supposed to think about our bodies and eat some of the things that are good for you. But
Mhm,
even that costs more than what the average person eats,
mhm,
and everything, the whole society, everything costs money. You even pair, in prophecy says that someday, when I was little, they said someday you'll see that air is going to be sold and the water is going to be sold. And I was like, yeah, right. There's so much water, how can that be sold? Well, if there's air, it's free. I mean,
mhm,
outside to breathe. But now they do. I mean, they got air in canisters and they sell air at the gas stations to put your air in the tires, and they sell bottles of water, jugs of water. I mean, I didn't think I was gonna, back then I never thought that was gonna happen, and I see it, and that's what I was told way back then. I was like, how did they know that? Prophecy, of course. Just
yeah,
like things that I've seen.
mhm,
Pandemic was supposed to have, was supposed to come along. I didn't think it'd come along in my generation.
mm,
I was living in here. We went through it, you know. And the wars, the war in the Holy Land. I heard about that a long time ago too. There's going to be a war in a place called the Holy Land. It's supposed to be holy, right? There
mhm,
was supposed to be a war there. Look what's happening. You know,
yeah,
there's different things like that that make you think, and like I said, it's kind of backwards. And
mhm,
so people should automatically put their elders, their leaders, and think about them, and without having to be told or reminded.
mhm,
Because when you're doing something to help the majority of the people, then you need all the help you can get, right?
mhm,
But you don't need to go and beg for it. You're not
yeah,
supposed to, you know.
mhm,
It's supposed to be common sense, they call it. People should automatically know. A long time ago, it was done that way. You know,
mhm,
paid by not paid, but gifted. We should say exchanged, bartered. You help person this way, and this is what I have.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's beautiful during our one of the gifts that came from our Maui wildfire disaster when the entire community responded.
right.
Everybody showed up, and before all the systems were intact again, it was working like that.
Yeah,
All the goods and resources were getting distributed to the elders and the vulnerable, and the young people were running around. Able-bodied were running around, making sure that they were okay. The leaders were, working selflessly and were very vulnerable to collapse, and other people would come around and make sure, hey, let me give you a break, or let me make sure you get some food or some water. And it was kind of this innate primal instinct. It is built into some of the cultural values in Hawaii, even people who have relocated, they call them Hawaiians call them settlers, um, acculturate into that norm over time. And there's something really healthy. Having that experience was really incredible. Where it was more of like some of these systems, we just seems like we need to pour more of that influence in to our
Mhm.
existing systems so we can integrate back into that type of way of being with one another in a community. And yet, since we are dependent on these financial systems, that I like to say it's kind of like going to Las Vegas slot machines.
Oh,
It's definitely in favor of certain of the users that know how to program them, right?
right.
So, which not all of us know how to play that kind of, or maybe that's not our role, is even to learn how to play in that type of arena because it takes such a specialized skill. Um, so,
That
you know,
too is an addiction too.
what is?
That too is an
Oh,
addiction
yeah,
too.
gambling. It's a form of gambling in a way, like
Well,
our
yeah, it's
obsession.
addiction.
With, yeah, it can be. Yeah, I mean,
And
gambling is one
for
of those
some
addictions
people,
yeah, our stock market very much, operates in that.
that too.
There was some documentaries done, around all these different apps that were developed that had a lot of the same psychological approaches that gambling has for enticing our brain and just kind of absorbing us into that addictive part of our brain that
Right.
bypasses a lot of our higher functioning, executive functioning parts. So we just have to protect our minds and do our best to give our attention in ways that are healthy and nourishing.
Right.
So I know we're kind of getting to that time, and I was curious, any prophecies that we haven't spoken about that you think might be helpful for us to know for this generation, if you're not with us, and hopefully you're with us another 30 or 40 years, but if you're not, are there some that we might
Okay.
expect
That
to come?
gives me a lot of hope. No.
Maybe you don't want to be here in 30 or 40 years, but um,
It's
any
gonna
other
be it's gonna get harder. Prophecy says that it's in a time of purification for Unchimaka grandmothers, mothers, you know, and there's a lot of things that are already in play, so, for instance, the climate change migration. Certain parts of the world are not. It's going to get so hot that it already happened. You can't grow. They can't grow their crops, so they have to move into a little cooler temperatures, and that's where the migration starts. And people aren't going to like it, so there goes some more differences and fights and wars and whatever else that happens from that. Different differences, and there's also times when all these different drugs and more addictions come from man-made chemicals that are put together to entice victims, I should say, and it's going to kill a lot of people. And man is going to go crazy. Of course, they're going to go crazy because you shouldn't be doing these chemicals. It messes up your brain cells, and they're not there. They're not themselves. So of course they're going to go crazy. It's already happening all over the place. You know.
Mhm.
So it's just we just need a lot of prayer. Just need a lot of good work from people like you. To work on different programs and issues to help today's society and to dealing with some of these traumas and addictions and problems that we're facing in today's world.
Yeah.
So we have to keep going. You know. be I guess to stay focused, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to keep trying,
Mm-hmm.
to keep hope, to keep our prayers going. Because, like I said, prayers is only a really uh, powerful gift that Creator has given us.
Yeah.
So,
And I like to invite people to, as they're, if they don't have a lot of experience or understanding of prayer, intention, meditation, doing and coming into community doing that, because when we come into a group with a shared intention and value, it can be very powerful. That create a circle. You don't have to go into a temple or a religious building or join a faith-based group. You know, bring a circle together, or go to some type of ceremony, or group that has a healing intention or purpose, and it defines itself. The group has its own medicine in that,
mm,
when it comes together. So
good. Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, for being on our show, Healers Voices, for amplifying these messages so that our change makers, policy makers, our leaders, our healers, or just listeners who want to learn more and integrate and bring in more Indigenous healing into their lifestyle can learn from somebody such as yourself. I know you offer so much wisdom and support many people in communities, so we really appreciate your generosity of sharing with us, and we look forward to doing more together and offering more to our community as we develop other workshops and programs where our listeners, followers, or community have an opportunity for more interaction, more of an interactive learning experience with you. But thank you for this timeless wisdom in talking with our community more about Indigenous healing, what medicines are available to us in our world, and how to incorporate more prayer and awareness into our lifestyle. So thank you. Would you like to close with any comments or
Yeah.
share your prayer?
Yeah. First of all, you're welcome, and thank you for all you do. You're doing great work. It's more sort of, they always say more power to you, but more, um, I guess, strength in your area to keep going, keep doing, what you're doing to help the people. Thank you. And I always like to say a closing prayer and to watch over, Creator, watch over the people and especially our children, and to give good health to all of us and to the people who need it. Watch over our elders, watch over the four-legged, two-legged, and everything else that has a material spirit in this world. The ones that really need that also. Chahe chitolo chaya tukashlo khatkaya ushila pina ya wayate kecha ya I taku ya oicha kina awai chala kapina ya I tuske kelena ta tukata ke zanyo ya pinish taku washtiste no hu pinish na waya kapikte waya tukashla ya wospe kelena cha tukashla guna ya I tanta un kichu na tukata ke na ya what you watched it because John such a height. Ocean Pia Po, Hachitolo, who Mitaka said, thank you.
Mahalo. I'll end with Hokahe.
More, hello,
What was that word?
mahalo, mahalo, mahalo,
Mahalo. Yeah, mahalo. Yeah,
hello.
our Hawaiian word for, and it's an expression of gratitude, but it's also a pause with a purpose.
When you
So
said that, I just remembered. Is yeah, it's one word I should always remember, but I I was like, okay, I recognize that word.
Thank you. And thank you for offering our community support as we go through our own healing and recovery journey as a community. So
All right.
thank you. I'll just end with a little prayer that I often say. It's may the long time sun shine upon you. May all love surround you, and the pure light within guide your way on.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey through the heartbeats of healing. We hope that Healers Voices has filled your heart with inspiration and brought you closer to the spirit of aloha. As we conclude this episode, we invite you to continue this important conversation in your own life. Let these stories and insights resonate within you and inspire change in your own community and beyond. Remember, the power of healing is within all of us, and by working together, we can bring positive change to our world. Let's move forward with compassion, understanding, and a commitment to living in harmony with nature and one another. We'll be back with more incredible stories and voices of healing from Maui and around the world. Until then, please remember to follow and like us to support this continued raising of awareness, and continue practicing, embodying, and spreading the aloha spirit to make a difference in the world. Mahalo for listening to Healers Voices. We'll meet again soon.